Distance, midpoint, and circles. To find the distance between 2 points, which we'll call x1, y1, and x2, y2, on an x and y axis is the following formula. Distance equals square root of x2 minus x1 all squared plus y2 minus y1 all squared. So for example, if I want to find the distance between the 2 points -5, 4 and 6, -1, the first thing I do is label across the top of the points. The first x and the first y, the second x and the second y. That helps me keep everything straight when I fill in the formula. Then my distance equals square root of, and filling in, x2 is 6, minus x1. x1 is -5, so we have minus a minus, which would be plus 5, and that's all squared. Plus y2 is -1, minus y1 is 4, and that's all squared. So 6 plus 5 is 11, and that's squared. And -1 minus 4 is -5, which is still squared. 11 squared is 121. -5 squared is positive 25. And when you add those together, it's the square root of 146. And it's fine with me if you just leave it like that. You don't have to get the decimal or break it down for these. Now the midpoint formula. The midpoint between 2 points is x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. Basically, you're just averaging the x's and averaging the y's. So the midpoint between -5, 4 and 6, -1, and again I've labeled across the top to help me keep track. Midpoint is, add the x's, -5 plus 6, divide by 2, comma, add the y's, 4 plus -1, divide by 2. -5 plus 6 is 1 over 2, and then 3 over 2. 1/2, comma, 3/2 is the point that's exactly in the middle of those two given points. Now, circles. The standard form for the equation of a circle is x minus h all squared plus y minus k all squared equals r squared. The center of the circle is hk, and the radius is r. Think of the minus signs in the formula as the word opposite. So when determining the center, the signs of the h and k in the formula will flip. For example, the center of the circle, x minus 5 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 9. If we identify h and k, the center will be positive 5, -3. You flip the signs on the h and the k. Then the radius is the square root of the 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. 9 is actually r squared. We just want r. So take the square root, and the radius is 3. Going in reverse, if we're given the center and the radius, we can write the equation of the circle. In the first example, the center is 5, 6, so 5, 6 is the h and the k. And so we flip those signs in the formula. So the formula will be x minus 5 all squared plus y minus 6 all squared equals, and then square the radius. 2 squared is 4, and there's the equation. In the next example, the center is 1, 0, that's h and k. Radius is 1, so we have x minus 1 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals, and when you square 1, you just have 1. Now, when we have either the x or the y minus 0, you don't have to include the 0. I could also write that x minus 1 all squared plus y squared equals 1. And then one more of those. If the center is 3, negative 2. Then the equation would be x minus 3 all squared plus y, and flip the sign, so plus 2 all squared equals, and then the radius squared would be 4. Now we're told to give the center and the radius, to graph the circle, and to identify the domain and range. In this example, we have x squared. There's no number with the x, so that means our h is 0. And then y minus 4, the k is 4. Remember the k is minus 4. Remember to flip the sign. So the center is 0, 4. The radius is the square root of that last number. Square root of 25 is 5. So there's the center and the radius. Then they say to graph the circle. So the way you graph a circle is first plot a point for the center. The center is at 0, 4. So right there. Then from the center you use the radius to count left, right, up and down 5 from the center. So from my center dot I'm going to count up 5, down 5, right 5, and left 5. And then connect my outside dots to make a circle. Unless you're using a compass with your graph paper, it's really hard to make a perfect circle. Just do the best you can just so your points are in the right place. It's fine. You don't even really have to have graph paper. Just so it's as neat as you can be, and I can tell where the points are. It's okay if your circle isn't pretty. Now the domain and range. Remember, the domain is the farthest left x to the farthest right x. So the farthest left my graph goes is at negative 5. And it passes through negative 5. It's solid there, so we need a bracket. The farthest right it goes is positive 5. So there's the domain. The range. The range is the lowest y value to the highest y value. The lowest y value my circle goes is at negative 1. The highest y value is 9. And it's solid through all of those places, so that's why we have brackets. Same instructions. First we need to give the center and the radius. There's h and k. Flip the signs. The center is at negative 1, positive 2. And the radius again happens to be 5, the square root of 25. Now let's draw the graph. Center at negative 1, 2, so right here. Then I count left, right, up and down 5 from the center. So to the right, to the left, up, and down. And connect. Wow, I really missed that dot on the left side. I'm just going to fix it. All right, so there's my circle. Domain and range. Domain is the farthest left x. So look at the dot, not my terrible circle. The farthest left I have is negative 6 on the x-axis. The farthest right x value is 4. The range. The lowest y value is at y equals negative 3. And the highest y value is up at 7. Make sure you always follow all directions. We were asked to do 3 things basically: center and radius, graph, domain and range. Sometimes the equation for the circle is not in standard form. Then we have to use a method called completing the square. to get it into proper form. This example says complete the square and write in standard form, give the center and radius, and graph. Before you begin the problem, you need to make sure that all of your x terms are beside each other, all of your y terms are beside each other, and then anything that's constant that doesn't have an x or a y needs to go over to the right side. So I'm going to have to subtract this 16. So rearranging a little bit, we have x squared plus 8x plus y squared plus 4y equals negative 16. Now, the remaining steps of this are kind of tricky if you haven't done this before. It doesn't seem like it's going to work out, but it will work out in the end. Cut in half the number in front of any variable to the first power. So that would be this 8. I cut it in half, that's 4. And this 4, I cut it in half, and that's 2. We're going to square those and add them to both sides. 4 squared is 16. 2 squared is 4. So now we have x squared plus 8x, and then I write plus 16 plus y squared plus 4y plus 4. And whatever you do to one side of an equation, you have to do to the other. So since I added 16 and 4 on the left, I have to add 16 and 4 on the right. Then we're going to factor each little trinomial that we have. But we're going to do a little shortcut. Now you can factor, you can look at the 16 and figure out how to get the 8 in the middle. That would be 4 times 4, so it's x plus 4, x plus 4. Well, notice that this half number that we wrote up here at the top is also a 4. That will always happen. The number that you need is the little half number that I have circled. So you can take a shortcut on the factoring. X squared plus 8x plus 16 will turn into parentheses x, and since there's a plus in front of the 8, I'll have a plus in my parentheses, and my half number that I've circled in red up at the top is 4, and parentheses squared. It always works that way. Then same thing with the y's. I have a y, because the next sign is a plus, I put a plus. My half number with the y's is the 2, parentheses squared, equals, and then on the right side when I combine like terms, I just have 4 left. Now it's in standard form. So I rewrote it in standard form, and we need to name the center. So the center, flip the signs, is -4, -2. And my radius is the square root of 4, which is 2. And then finally, to graph it, the center is at -4, -2, so right there. And from the center, I need to count 2 in every direction. So up, down, left, sorry, it's sticky, and right. And circle. Those are tricky. Let's try another one. So I want all of my x's written beside each other, all of my y's written beside each other, and then any other number needs to go over to the right side. That will give me x squared plus 12x plus y squared minus 6y equals 4. The number in front of the letters to the first power cut in half. So the 12 cut in half is 6. And the 6 cut in half is 3. Don't worry about the minus right now. We square those numbers and add them to both sides. 6 squared is 36. And 3 squared is 9. So now we're going to have x squared plus 12x plus 36 plus y squared minus 6y plus 9 equals 4. And because I added 36 and 9 on the left side, I have to add 36 and 9 on the right side. Okay, group together, 3 at a time. We're going to shortcut factor. So parentheses x, I have a plus in front of the 12, so I need to put a plus. My half number in red that's circled up above is a 6, parentheses squared, plus parentheses y. I have a minus in front of the 6, so a minus goes in the parentheses. My half number up above circled in red is 3, parentheses squared, equals. On the right side, when I add all of those numbers together, I get 49. Now the equation is in standard form. I'm supposed to name the center and the radius. The center, flipping the signs, is -6, +3. The radius is the square root of 49, which is 7. Now the graph. My center is at -6, 3. And then I need to count 7 in every direction. So I'm going to go to the right. Now to the left, on this grid, I've run out of room, so I'm just going to have to guess. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe right here. Up 7 and down 7. And connect and make a circle.